If we are meant to live by myth, can we live by the myths of the other? Everything in the unconscious seeks outward manifestation, and the personality too desires to evolve out of its unconscious conditions and to experience itself as a whole. What we are to our inward vision and under the aspect of eternity can only be expressed by way of myth. If we live by myth, we have encounters with the unconscious. They may be tender, edifying, ecstatic, humbling, enlivening, paralyzing, deadly even. But when we live by myth, something enters the psyche, whether it is through the front door as an invited guest or as an intruder through the back door. It blows something open in us. A living myth is not a myth until it is practiced in actual living, until it becomes a way of life. So much of the time when we are talking about myth and learning about myths, we talk about stories, we talk about artifacts of culture. We don't really know what it is like to live in an African religion unless we immerse ourselves in the ritual and the practice of them. What frustrates me is when people talk about living by myth as if it were a kind of retreat workshop or a life hack. It has to go deeper to become a participation in symbolic acts, personal ritual that brings tears to our eyes, that calms our anxieties, that excites our passions, that changes our moods. Suffice it to say, living by myth is not an intellectual exercise, a personal ideology, or something that can merely be observed. It has to be integrated into a lifestyle, into a living practice, and a symbolic life that virtually every single day, and on our darkest days, satisfies the soul. And we have to find it for ourselves. What makes a myth come alive is the psychic energy it is able to channel. Over a period of time, perhaps a lifetime, this symbolic life may coalesce into a sustainable, energy-enhancing lifestyle and work that provides meaning and purpose and satisfies at last the restless longing which compels us on the path in the first place, at which point we find we have lived a myth that is vital to our own psychological well-being and health. So, in answer to the question of whether we can live by the myths of the other, the answer is no. The goal of the ethnologist should be to provide a path for outsiders to an understanding of the tradition as it is experienced by insiders. Ethnography is most effective when one observes the group being studied in settings that enable the ethnographer to explore the organized routines of behavior. Ethnography is based on extensive observation in the field, a labor-intensive activity that sometimes lasts for years. One is expected to become a part of the group being studied to the extent that the members themselves include the observer in the activity, maybe even include the observer in gossip. Participation observation is a research process ethnologists use to learn about the activities of the people under study in the natural setting. Using this method, a researcher establishes rapport within a community and learns to act in such a way as to blend into the community so that its members will act naturally. The researcher then removes his or herself from the setting or community to study the data and write about it. Participation observation is considered erroneous by those who claim information collected by ethnologists is not representative of the culture because much of the data collected by the researcher is observed based on the researcher's individual interest in a setting or behavior rather than being representative of what actually happens in a culture. Problems also may occur when researchers select key informants who are similar to them or when the informants are community leaders or marginal participants. Also, there is a risk that the ethnologist will present the religion as he or she would wish it to be, not as it really is. Joseph Murphy himself, the author of our Santeria text, felt, given the centuries of disparagement of Santeria, that it was his duty to present the religion in the best light. Further, the Santeros, whom Murphy met, made it clear to him that, unless he abandoned the observation post of scholarly distance, he would never understand the mysteries of the Orishas. He admits that his abandoning of omniscience meant taking certain liberties, however, in recording times and places as well as in concealing and changing names to ensure privacy. Bottom line, while ethnologists like Murphy try to accurately reproduce the setting and the sense of what is told to them, Still, they are but observers and outsiders to the tradition. Hence, it is the ethnologist's myth to live by, only when its wisdom is translated into the language of his or her own experience.
Hết chưa?